Although my two sisters and I learned basic math in school, at home we had already learned how to make change in the store. Harriet, my oldest sister, recalls when she was taught how to make change for a dime. Ice cream cones at the time were 7 cents for one dip. She remembers learning when given a dime from the customer, she had to give back 3 pennies. You can be sure that when we began waiting on customers who wanted more than candy or ice cream, that we were watched very carefully. The nice thing about gasoline costing 20 cents a gallon back then was that almost every customer bought a dollar's worth at a time. That was easy. Usually there was a single dollar bill given to us, or else carefully counted out change, adding up to a dollar. We also had several regular customers who ran tabs. Customers were friends and we never worried about them paying. As I look back on those days, I remember that for tending store, pumping gasoline, putting in oil, putting away the empty soda bottles and sorting them, keeping the soda cooler filled, dipping ice cream, unpacking supplies, and putting up stock onto the shelves, and even cooking hamburgers and making milkshakes, I was given an allowance of 5 cents a week. In the days before television was common, there was a local man who would occasionally come into the store with a movie projector and screen to show movies, normally Abbott and Costello. We had a pool table in the rear of the store, and the movie screen would be placed behind it so it was visible to everyone coming in. There were a couple of long benches and a few chairs alongside the pool table for customers while they watched the movie. I don't know if there was an admission charge. And as far as the pool table goes, my sister Harriet reminded me that we were trained as kids to get under it for protection if the community air raid siren went off.
The next year after my mother's death, we got our first television set, which was black and white. I had it put up in the store so the customers could enjoy it, and also the children would sit up on the edge of the pool table and look at it.
In my family, our Christmas tree never went up until after 9 o'clock p.m. Christmas Eve. We kids had to be in bed by 9 o'clock. And of course, the store was open at least until 10. One of the traditions on Christmas Eve in the store was that my mother or father offered regular customers a cocktail or two if they came in. Very few declined. I remember being upstairs in my sister Ethel's room on Christmas Eve in about 1951, and we were excitedly speculating on what we were going to get for Christmas. Suddenly we could hear Christmas music and some sort of commotion going on outside. We ran to a window in my parents' room, which looked down on the gasoline pumps and the road. Across the road under the streetlight, where Longbridge Road intersects with Main Street, was the choir from the Canton Baptist Church singing Christmas carols. And in the darkness, we could also see some men carrying old Tom Valentine out of the store and putting him into someone's car to take him up the road to his home. It indeed was a very Merry Christmas for him. In the early 50s, my mother asked Sam Williams to build a lunch counter in the front of the store. When she first opened it, neither she nor any of us had any idea what a sub was. It was a popular place, though, for oyster stew, hamburgers, and various sandwiches, as well as for coffee and breakfast. Ultimately, the lunch counter was moved to the rear of the store after the pool table and television had been removed.
Kids were such a big help to me in the store. They each had their chores to do, and they were extremely helpful, which made it nice because then very occasionally, Parky and I could go out for a couple of hours, go out to eat or take an afternoon off or something, and they took over. Of course, we had to do this in the summer months when they were out of school.
In the late 1950s, we began selling bloodworms, which were a very good bait. The waters around Canton and Still Creek had become well known for good fishing, and fishermen from as far away as Philadelphia stopped at the store for gasoline, oil, lunch, and now bait. My sister Ethel adamantly refused to touch bloodworms. Whenever she was tending store and a customer wanted a dozen of them, she would call into the house for me to get them for her. I remember the day when she was tending store and there was a man sitting at the lunch counter trying to decide what he wanted to order for lunch. When another customer came in for bloodworms, Ethel called for me to get them. The man at the lunch counter, having observed this, then said with a smirk he would like a bloodworm sandwich. Ethel was not a person who liked to play games. She simply got the bread out and innocently asked him, "What would you like on it, mayonnaise or mustard?" I understand he changed his order very quickly. Ethel said later she would have gotten the bloodworms herself that one time.
In January of 1961, after realizing for some time that our marriage wasn't working, Parky and I finally decided to divorce, which we did, and he built a little home down on Long Bridge Road. He got all the meadow and all of our upland, enough to keep him going, and I kept the store to finish raising my family. In the meantime, one of my customers, and also he was my mailman, John Ritchie, suggested that I put a new line of merchandise in the store that was fishing equipment, rod reels, and so forth, and which I did, and it was very productive. In fact, I became very interested in John, and I guess John became interested in me, so we started dating. On May the 21st, 1963, he and I got married and went to Vermont and Niagara Falls on our honeymoon. I've decided to sell my store. I decided now it's time to retire. And I got my daughter Ethel to draft plans because she was drafting at that time. She drafted the plans for my new home, and subsequently we moved in there June the 3rd of 1968.